Welcome again to this wonderful program, African Voice. This is a program that we'll be having every Saturday, and we are intentionally trying to do the same in English because we realize that there are so many other people who maybe might be wanting to know one or two things about the refugee law, about the laws of Denmark generally, especially those who are foreigners and who are living here who would want to know one of the things. So we are here today with my co-panelists. I have Elocho Swedi, who is our lawyer inside here, and also we have Brother Yose Enabiai. So I just want to give them 2 minutes, 30 seconds to present themselves before we start this program. Let's start by Yose. Welcome, Yose. Can you hear me?
Is it me?
Yeah. So I'm saying you present yourself as we start this program.
Yes. Hello, my name is Bios Enabiai. I'm representing the refugee group who are living in Denmark. Our organization is called Refugee Forum. So every time we have a program that is about refugee laws, refugee stuff. So if you want to hear more about them, so you can join us from YouTube and Facebook and TikTok. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. You are most welcome. You'll be assisting me here in asking some relevant questions because we might not be able to ask questions all of us. So you will be here with us to ask a question on your behalf. Yeah. Welcome, Brother Bios, Council Elocho. Please present yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Elocho Swedi. I'm a lawyer. I took my master degree in Danish law in the University of Southern Denmark, and we are trying to explain some of the things of immigration law in Denmark. In terms of today, we are going to explain a little bit about family reunification, how to get a visa to Denmark, and what are the conditions which are needed for someone to get those kind of permit to stay here.
Exactly. That's where my first question starts. How do one apply to get a visa to Denmark? You are a foreigner who live maybe in Africa, in Latin America, or wherever, and you want to get a visa to Denmark. What are the possibilities?
Yeah, Denmark has like other countries. Some they have some international agreement with some countries. Like if we start in Europe, the European Union, they have their kind of law because when you live in Europe, they have this what they call free movement, which means that the Europeans they can move to their countries that the country which are in their European Union without any kind of visa. They can just take their national identity and then move without any problem. But there is other countries which they require visa to visit Denmark. There is some countries, and Denmark, they have done it in a way that they have divided it into 5 groups. And these groups, there is group 1 where they say it is easy to visit Denmark without any problem because they don't have any risk. They are not Denmark are not afraid that like they will not leave Denmark. There is other groups where they say this kind of group when they come in Denmark, they normally don't leave Denmark. They stay. Either they apply for asylum or they will get other ways of like staying in Denmark. So those kind of people they're afraid of, like they cannot live in Denmark. And for someone to apply a visa to Denmark, you have to have a reason. Why are you applying this visa? Why do you want to visit Denmark? Are you coming to Denmark because of there is a funeral, your brother died, someone died, then you come for the funeral? Are you coming because there is a party, a marriage ceremony, which you are coming to attend? And what is the intention? Are you going to live when this marriage ceremony is over, or when it's finished, or you have the intention to come and stay. And there is conditions, which there is a requirement which you have to fulfill, or the requirement which you have to abide with. And this requirement there, one of the most important requirements is they look at, what are you doing back home? What is your occupation? What job are you doing? Let's say if you are working in a government office, it is easy for you to come to Denmark and return because you have something to return to. Like, you cannot leave your job because you want to come and stay in Denmark. Then they will look at, they will ask your bank statement, bring your bank statement, then they are going to analyze, in this kind of money you have in your account, if you go to Denmark, are you able to take care of yourself? Or the person who have invited you, because most of the time it goes through invitations, like someone will send an invitation to you, to someone in India or in somewhere in the world, and then you want to come to Denmark because of that invitation, and then they are going to look, the person who's calling you, is he able to take care of you? What is he doing in Denmark? What kind of job is he doing? And when they're looking all those stuffs, like in terms of like all these things, they are going to be fulfilled, then they can grant you a visa to come and visit Denmark. And when you visit Denmark, there is like you can come here for 14 days, you can come here for 1 month, 3 months. Normally, if they give you a visa of more than 3 months, then they've already given you a work permit, because you cannot stay in Denmark more than 3 months without a permanent resident. That is how Denmark is. Like, in the first 3 months, you can stay on a visa, and when it's 3 months and 1 day, then you have to apply for permanent resident. So all those who come to Denmark, like they have 1 year, like au pair, let's say au pair. Au pair, that those people who come from, they can come from it's a very nice name, which they call it only au pair, but the real name is their maid. They come from other countries to come and work in Denmark as maid. So
Housemates.
yes, and in a formal way, then they call it au pair, to make it very professional and show some respect to the
Look good, some respect.
yeah. But those people, they come to work as maid in Denmark, and those people, they get visa with work permit. And in Denmark, you cannot get work permit when you don't have a resident permit. Before work permit, you have to get resident permit, and then you have your work permit, because they combine them together. And in that case, then you can live in Denmark. In these groups.
Now let's start by asking, if I am a student, I want to study here in Denmark. And maybe before you answer that question, you should give us the list of those countries where the government fears that if you come here, you'll not go back, and which are the countries where the country does not have any problem with. They think even if you come, even if you are given a visa, you'll be back. And then you tell us how the students from those countries can be allowed to come here, what are the requirements, and also if I want just to come as a professional, I want to come and apply for a job here in Denmark, what do I have to do? Those are my questions, or questions that our viewers are asking.
Of course, as I said before, there is 5 groups, and in these 5 groups, they have divided them in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth group, which by the last group, they are more afraid that there is a risk that if they come to Denmark, they will not go back home. And if we are going to name all the countries, maybe we could choose some countries, some specific countries where we can say, because there's many countries in these groups, which if we say we name all of them, maybe it can take time. But if you just need for us to name all the groups, we can do that also. But I could have asked, maybe we choose some countries which we say these countries, we can name them, and then we go on with the other program because we don't have that much time. I don't know if you are going to take all the groups or we just take some of the groups. How do you take it?
Just give us
How
some
do
of
you
the most
see
important
it?
groups, and if people have more questions, they will ask.
Yes. Like which countries do we look at?
I
Like
think,
in the
Mama
first group,
Esperance, you should mute your microphone
in
if you
the
can
first
hear
group,
us.
like let's say in the first group, there is countries like Namibia, Lesotho, there's countries like Madagascar, there is countries like Botswana, Cambodia, there is countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, there is Equator, there is South
Equatorial Guinea.
Africa, there is also Taiwan, those countries like Jamaica, there is Tanzania, there is also countries like Indonesia. Yeah, among those countries. What do they say about this group? They say group one, they look that these people, when they come to Denmark, they normally go back to their countries. They come to visit and a certain time and they go back to the countries. And most of them who are coming to Denmark, they come because they are coming with to visit because they have some intellectual knowledge which they want to come and learn from Denmark, or they have some ideas which they want to come and use in Denmark. So it's different from other groups. There is other groups where they say this group, we are more afraid because this group, they can stay in Denmark. They are coming here because they want to come and visit and something, but their aim is to stay in Denmark. Their main aim is to come and stay in Denmark. Then those groups, they're afraid of those groups to come and stay in Denmark. And when you say, how can a person then apply to come and study in Denmark? As I was explaining before, the Danish Immigration Act has some paragraph in it and some sections which they say in this section you can get a way of coming to Denmark. Like if we take section 9, the Immigration Act of Denmark, you can come to Denmark when you apply your application, you apply for a resident permit. In one way, an alien can come to Denmark when he's the age of 25 above, 24 above. When you are married to someone who lives in Denmark as a Danish or Nordic countries, that is where we say Nordic countries, then we say Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark. When you are a resident of those countries, you can come to Denmark, or you can come to Denmark as a person who has a resident permit under Section 7 or Section 8, or has a permanent resident in Denmark after more than 3 years in Denmark. When a person has a permanent resident, or you are an unmarried child under the age of 15, then you can also come to Denmark. You can also come to Denmark also, even if you are above age, but your parents can show that they are the one taking care of you. Some of the things they provide for your well-being, they provide for your school. You can apply also to come to Denmark. And in then we go to section 9A in the Danish Immigration Act, which also gives people an opportunity to apply to come and be in Denmark. And in those sections, we look at then the students who want to come and then study in Denmark. Those students, they have to apply for the first time. They have to apply at a certain course which they want to come and do in Denmark. What the course, and they have to apply. You can apply, let's say at university level. You apply a university course. All the requirements are there. You have fulfilled all the requirements, and when you have fulfilled all the requirements, you can apply to come and study in Denmark. And when you apply to come and study in Denmark, that is when you get a permanent, you get a resident in Denmark. And this resident, what does it give you? It gives you an opportunity to start. When you are studying, then if you have a family, that is where most of people, when they come, when you apply, like I have a family and I'm coming to start, they will not give you they will not give you a visa, or they will not give you a resident permit, because they are afraid that when you come to Denmark, then you are not only coming to start, but you want to come to Denmark so that you can establish yourself. Then student has to fulfill some requirements. What are these requirements? These requirements, so when you come to Denmark, when you come to Denmark, you come with this intention to start. Then you get a place where you can start. That is where students has also to require to the requirement is that you have to fulfill the requirement of the education you want to take. I was saying before, when you take, for instance, you take communications, let's say at the University of Copenhagen, you have to fulfill the requirement of that education before you can apply. And when you apply, there is also another aspect, and that is the economy. Because you are going to pay for yourself. And normally education in Denmark is very, when you are paying, of course, to those who have the right to remain in Denmark, those who have the right to study in Denmark, they can go to school free of charge, and maybe they'll be getting some support. They'll be giving them money to support themselves. But if you come from outside, you want to study in Denmark, you have to pay for your school fees. You have to pay for your accommodation. You have to pay for your food and everything. And everything yourself, you are the one paying it. But when you are now in Denmark, your permanent your residence gives you a right to work. Then you can only work 20 hours a week. So, and those 20 hours a week, maybe you will not get a job, you may end up not getting a job. And when you don't get a job, then it's difficult to know that you can do something about it. And then the student become, things become more complicated. Then we are talking about when you are now in Denmark, you are established in Denmark, you want now to call your family, maybe it can be your wife, your children. And most of the time, someone asked this question, like, what kind of person can someone call? How is it connected with family reunification? It's called family reunification. It means you have to call members of your family. The members of your family, that is what you have to call. And who are these members of your family? They look at your wife, your kids. These are members of your family. Your parents, they are your parents. They may be also extended member of your family, but the family which they are talking about is your wife and your kids. And most of the time, how is this connected? It's like you have a family back home, like those who apply to come and study university courses, like a researcher at the university, they are like professor, they got a job as doctors in Denmark. When you are a doctor, or you have some qualifications, you have your master degree in something, and that they look it in Denmark, like let's say engineering. Most of IT engineering, those who are engineer in IT, they get jobs in Denmark, and when they come here, they are well paid. Then when they're applying that I have a family. If I will get a job in Denmark, I have to come with my family. And those that are given us the resident, the family are given the resident permit to come and stay with their parents in Denmark. They can be a husband who've got a job. Recently, I was working on a case of someone coming from India. The wife got time to study in Denmark, and they had the means, they had money and everything. And then the husband came, the kids also came to Denmark. They began to stay here. But when they finished with with the school. They didn't get a job because normally then you have to get 2 years. When you finish your education, it may be a master degree, it may be a bachelor degree or a master degree. Then you get time to establish yourself in Denmark, and they give you 2 years. In these 2 years, the condition is you have to get a job related to education. Like if you took communication, let's say you took communication, then you have to get a job related to communication. You cannot get a job of cleaning and then you stay here like you are establishing yourself after those 2 years. In those 2 years' time, where you are still looking for a job, you can get a job as a cleaner. Of course, you can get a job as a cleaner. You'll be doing it, but before that 2 years ends, you have to get a job related to your education. Like it may be a job which you get because of your education, and then you can stay here. Then when those who come as job, they get their job without any problem and they stay here. Let's say those who come as refugees. You came as a refugee, and when you came as a refugee, it means maybe you didn't come with your husband, you didn't come with your wife, but when you came in Denmark, your wife was staying somewhere, you can apply for your wife to come, and there, the conditions are very few, because, like they know that it's your wife, you have declared their kids, and some, they only get their wife here like after 3 months, after 5 months, after 1 year, because there is other way they're looking at it. Now, if you are in Denmark, and you have already established yourself, you got a girlfriend, or you get someone, like you are busy playing with your phone, and you get a beautiful lady or a handsome man, you begin to chat with the person, and then you want to go back and marry this person. Maybe it can be let's say in India or Thailand or somewhere in the world, in DRC Congo. Maybe it can be in Tanzania. Then you go there and marry. When you marry, there is conditions which you have to fulfill. And this is where some people make mistake, because even these conditions, they are not only to those who come from other countries. These conditions, they are also to Danish. And if you look at it, refugees, they have their conditions that they're not that hard than Danish. Because for a Danish to go out and marry, he has to have Danish. He has to prove. Talking Danish is not a proof. He has to prove that he has Danish at level 3. That they call danske prøve 3. He has to prove a Danish. The person was born in Denmark. He grew up in Denmark speaking Danish, and maybe he went to school. He didn't finish what they call 9. class, which is the ninth level, or primary 9. In other countries they call it primary 9, because in Denmark we have this system where you have to go to primary school from primary 1 up to primary 9, and then in that case, if you don't prove that you have primary 9, then you cannot call someone in Denmark. You cannot call someone in Denmark, because you have to have Danish at level 3. And the other condition that you have to work in Denmark almost 5 years. In these 5 years, you have to work in Denmark. The person you are calling also from the outside, he has also to have some qualifications. The person has also to have English at a certain level. They call it level B1. He has to maybe have worked in his or his country of origin. He has worked there. And then for the Danish to bring someone in Denmark, they have to have at least, now they have to have at least 100,000 in their bank account. Even if they don't have their bank account, but they have to provide this money, and this money have to be kept somewhere. And there's a lot of conditions to those married to Danish, because they have some specific language test which they have to take before they can say you are now qualified to live here, or they can give you that money that money back. And that's why you see those people married to Danish, or married to Danish, or people who have married Danish, the men or women, they are focused to do things. I mean, to work on fulfilling all those requirements so that they can stay in Denmark. For refugees, let's talk about refugees. For refugees, it is easy because the international requirement can say you don't have to fulfill the Danish level 3. You don't have to have all this the other requirements because you are a refugee. But for refugees now, they can say, you know what, you are coming from a country where there is peace, or your wife, your husband is coming from a country where there is peace. You can go and live with your husband in that country, because there is no problem. If you don't fulfill the requirement, you people can go and settle down in Zambia. You can go and settle down in Malawi. There is no problem. If you don't fulfill the requirement, they will always tell the person you can go back and settle down in your wife or
But
husband.
there is, if you are a Danish person, I'm told there is an amount of money that you need to deposit with
You
the state if you want your partner to come over here. When does that law apply for somebody who's not Danish? And if you are Danish, you get married, this is just for curiosity. If you get married to a certain lady or a certain man from outside, and then you get divorced and you have deposited that money, what happens? Is the money refunded to you? And for how long the Danish can be married to a foreigner before they divorce? And the foreigner who was married to the Danish is not asked to go back home.
It's not the requirement of divorce is not only apply it's not does not only apply to Danish. It also applies to refugees, us, those who,
Mhm.
when you come to Denmark, you establish yourself as a refugee, you go back and get married to someone. Let's say you get married to someone in Brazil, and you bring the person in Denmark, and after there is a certain years you have to live together. That they say you have to live together until your wife or your husband gets a permanent resident. You can even go back home after 10 years. So it is not like while you are still married to a person, if the requirement of your resident is you have to live with your husband for the rest of your time in Denmark. So it means you can even get divorced after 15 years if there is if there is no other requirement, like there's no children in the family, you people did not get any child, you were but just living like that, you have a strong connection to your country. They can even say you have divorced, go back home. Let me take it from the beginning. You get married, they give you a resident permit because of family reunification. And what they say you have to live together in the same address as long as this residence is valid. Then at a time after three years, you people get divorced, because that is what happened. Get divorced. Maybe there's no child. It's unfortunate that there's no child in the family. Then the only thing they will tell you is like you have to go back home. And if there is a child, the case becomes more complicated, because this child needs to live with both the parents. And maybe the child will be living with the mother, and the mother is the one who came from outside, or the father is the one coming outside. Or the child will be living with the mother, and the father is the one coming outside. But if there
Because
is this
I know two case studies
yes,
of two ladies from Brazil, right? Who
yeah,
got married here. One got married to a guy, and she had her daughter, you know. But after some times, they couldn't continue living together. They divorced, and
yes,
then the lady had to live on her own. And after some time, I think the man wanted to create issues for the lady to be sent back to Brazil, and
yes.
the government wanted to send her back to Brazil. I can hear uh, the colleague where she was going to school and what have to go and do some demonstration to refuse the. I don't know what happened. I know another one who got married as well, also from Brazil. This man who happens to be Danish, but they didn't get any kid. But the lady was able to establish herself, going to school, finished pro school, went to SOSU, finished, and then they got divorced. And immediately after divorce, he got another man. Now, uh, would you, without being threatened to go back home, or maybe that was the reason why she got married to the second man. So, what could be the difference from these two case studies? Because these two people are from the same country, with almost the same situation, but treated different. What could be the? What does the law say about the same?
But if I got you well, you said that the first one had a child.
Yeah, had her own child
No,
from her own country. The second
for our
one
own country.
didn't have any child.
And how long were they living together?
I think for a considerable time. I think it was for about 7 years, I guess.
Yes, sometime if the man had a child, because in Denmark is this, when you come to Denmark,
it's the woman who had a child. The woman
yes, that's what I'm saying. If you do family reunification, you get married, you have your own child from the previous marriage, you bring the child to Denmark. That child start to go to school. Mm-hmm. The child will start creating friends. Mm-hmm. His social life will be here in Denmark. Mm-hmm. The child maybe start speaking the language. Mm-hmm. Maybe mm-hmm. for now forgetting the speaking the Portuguese.
Her own mother.
Yeah, then he has the only thing he has now in mind. The child is Denmark, is Portuguese, is the Portuguese is no longer there, and it's now Danish the child is speaking. The mother maybe has established himself in other way. He has taken Denmark to herself, or to himself if he's a man. I cannot come with a solution in those cases because we don't have a lot of information. Yeah, but when we say generally, it's like a person can stay in Denmark if is may be connected to Denmark. Mm-hmm. When you are connected to Denmark, there are a lot of things which they look into when they are saying you can stay in Denmark because of the connection to the Danish society. And the other case which you're talking about, the lady came from Brazil, established herself, went to social school, went to things like that, got her own job. That one is already established. No, it's not a burden any longer to the Danish society. And there is a rule which says you can get married, get a job, work at the same job at the same place, not only the same place, but the same job in 2 years. And after 2 years, you can apply to remain in Denmark based on that job. Mm-hmm. You can apply to remain in Denmark even if you divorce and you have your job for almost 2 years. It's not like the job has to be the same employee, the same employer, but it can be different employer, but in the same branch.
So you are already you are enjoying the privilege of that experience.
You are enjoying right? The privilege of that experience which you have, and because of that privilege, you can apply using Section 9A, where you apply, you can stay in Denmark. Which means, why are some people maybe a risk to return home after maybe 7 years in Denmark? The person came to Denmark, he or she didn't work, didn't go to school. He was enjoying the marriage, being married to a Danish, or being married to a person who was permanent resident, enjoying himself or he or herself. And he was here, like up and down. He would go to parties, enjoy himself, and come home. And then the divorce come. Because if you look at this marriage where people, they are marrying themselves coming from outside, like I would say, like 8% of those marriages, they got divorced in some years. And if you are not established yourself, then they will send you back home. The other lady then got married to another Danish because he was not able to remain in Denmark. And when she got married to another person, then he applied for family reunification using the other person. And when you are using the other person and you are already here, then you can stay in Denmark. You can remain here and stay with the other person. So you were talking about the money. I talked about it last year. When this money, when you pay this money, there is the requirement for this money to come back to you. The person you married, your wife or your husband, has to work with Danish language. That's why they have some labels which he has to take. When he take that label and he passed, they will send some money to you. He goes to another label, they will send another money to you. Then the money you are paying, it's like you are putting it like to show that when your wife comes to Denmark, because the only thing they're afraid of is like when you come to Danish society, when the Denmark is afraid of, when you come to Danish society, you have to contribute. We are living here, we work, we pay tax, we pay VAT. Like in my company, you have to pay VAT of 25% of the income. Like if, let's say, if I ask a person to pay for legal advice, let's say 1,000 Danish kroner, I have to remove 25
250
yes,
krona
to pay the VAT.
Yes. Value added tax, it's called.
Yes, value added tax. I have to pay that. And then I have to pay tax, my own tax, which is 38%. How is that?
But the value added tax, it's the customer who pays, not you.
No,
right?
sometimes you cannot ask the customer to pay it. Like you
just add it on the bill.
If you add it on the bill, then the customer will pay 25% plus the 1,000 you're asking. If you don't add it, then you have to reduce it from the 1,000 you were asking.
So that's your mistake then.
Yeah, no. It can be that it's a normal things you are doing. You are like telling the client.
But I understand what you mean, because either yes, it's the customer paying or yourself,
or the company.
The customer would not have paid if you didn't offer the service, right?
Yes.
Because you offer the service, you helped the government to get this 25%.
Yes.
And on top of that, when you get your own salary, you'll also pay your own tax as a person.
Yeah, then you pay
contributing like that, and you bring a woman or a man in Denmark, that person also contributes.
Which means as a company, you are contributing 63% of your income to the government. You see? Then they want you, when you come to Denmark also, they want you also to contribute. So if you are not contributing to the society, then you don't have to stay here. Then you have to go back home because you will be a burden to the society. You get free medical care. Maybe you are getting free education. And when you are getting all these things, you have also to contribute to the society. And if you cannot do that, if you cannot contribute, why should you stay in Denmark? But there is people who have gone to school, they have finished their let's say bachelor degree. If you go to school, finish your bachelor degree, get divorced, then you can apply like, I'm looking for a job based on my school because I went to school, and you get 2 years to stay in Denmark, looking for a job. And when you get a job or you establish yourself, because you can go to school, learn communications, and when you come, you establish your own company based on the education you have taken. And then you establish your own company, then they can give you, because you are dependent. No, you are not dependent. You are independent. You are independent because what you are doing it yourself. You are not depending on the government support. And if they say that you are depending on the government support, that's why they say they tell you, tak or farewell, thank you and goodbye. Because you don't have any contribution you are doing. Let's say now we go to refugees, which they are somehow it can say they have some privilege because the International Convention on Refugees says they have to have this privilege. For them, they can go out, get married to someone they love, come to Denmark. Maybe they have worked for almost 5 years, and then the wife they are calling, she has also some kind of education. It's a very important thing in my work as a lawyer. I will say this to the refugees who are marrying outside Denmark. It's very important to marry someone who have a background, educational background, and someone who is working. It's very easy for that person to come to Denmark. And if you are not going to marry someone with an education background, go and marry a refugee. Yeah, because if you marry a refugee, then it will be easy for that person to be told, you know what, you can leave, you can go and stay in your country of origin. You can go and stay in your country of origin. But if you marry a refugee, then there is a way of saying the person can stay in Denmark, and you can call him or her to come and live with you, because the case will not be complicated. But if you marry someone who is not a refugee, and the person has not in any education background, the person has not anything, then you have to look a lawyer to do your case, because when you are doing it yourself, they will keep on refusing you to bring your wife into Denmark. So when we say about family reunification and divorce, and maybe one day I will come and talk about divorce law, where I will explain why some people just come into Denmark, you are still enjoying yourself, and boom, the husband or the wife says, I want to divorce. And in Denmark, things are not very complicated. Divorcing, it's not like getting married is hard, but divorcing is not a problem. Like, I'll wake up one morning and say, you know what, this relation cannot go on any longer. We have to divorce. And then you divorce without any problem. Then there is also other way to do family reunification, which is very easy. Like, if you are living in Denmark, let's say Danish, you are Danish, or you have a permanent resident living in Denmark, and you have children. And those children, they are going to school in Denmark. They will always say, you cannot go and live with these children outside Denmark. They have to live in Denmark. Then they will give you there's other rules which they use, other sections which they use, so that you can stay with your children in Denmark, and your wife can come. Maybe you have a child who is, vulnerable. Those children who have in law, we don't call them like they have a problem with, they call it handicap. We don't call that again. So normally we use they are vulnerable because they have some issues. And then when you are living with that kind of child and you need support, and you get someone outside Denmark which you want to marry, then it's easy also to bring the person, because they will look also the child, that the child needs someone to take care of, which you can maybe yourself, you cannot provide the care needed. Then they will need someone to come and help you to do that. Then I was asked a question: what about the parents? Can we call the parent to come and live with us into Denmark? Of course we can, but we have to show exactly that the parent you are calling, the person you are calling as the parent to come and live in Denmark, you are really the one who was taking care of that person before you come from Brazil to Denmark. You can also show the person that I was when I came to Denmark, I was still like helping the person to like food, everything. I was taking care of the person, and now the person is sick. I cannot help the person. Then I need the person to come and stay with me. And why is it easy to get those when you come? But like if you call, when you contact us, like to do a case like that, we'll ask you, what are you doing in Denmark? What kind of job do you have? How is your economy? How is
income?
how is your economy growing? How is your income? How do you use how is your money? Because when we do a case like that, there's questions which they will come.
What do you do
They'll
for a
ask you.
living?
Yeah, or there'll be things, there'll be questions which they'll be asking, and we'll be able to explain to them that this is what that is. This is we are doing this because we know this is the only way this parent can survive. But if you are on the government support, it's only the government taking care of you, you don't have an income, your income is maybe 150 Danish krona yourself, it's not enough for yourself, for your kids, for your family, and you are expecting the society to help you, then it will be hard, you know. It will be very hard for the society to say, we are taking your mother and your parent, or your mother or your father, to Denmark to live here. And uh, when we do these family reunifications, there is also the requirement where they say that the person who are coming to Denmark, they have also to establish themselves in Denmark. They have to contribute also to the society for them to remain the way they can remain in Denmark. So it's not like when you come here, you have to sit down and then wait until your husband brings something or your wife. You have also to work hard so that you can contribute in the Danish society. So there is a requirement, as I was saying, there is the requirement which we are required to fulfill before we can do family reunification. Our advice as in our company, what we call your rights, our advice which we give to people, we say it's better to pay 1,000 for consultations, like consultation fees, than to apply and get a no. Because when you pay 1,000, we will tell you that the rule says like this is the requirement. Do you fulfill the requirement? Or you cannot only pay a lawyer, maybe a friend who has some knowledge about the requirements in Denmark. You can pay also a friend, and when you pay a friend will help you to look at these rules. And that case, you'll be able to understand that exactly this is what we can do to help this person who are applying for family reunifications. And those who are getting to some of people that are getting to marry to Danish or to Danish citizen. Being a Danish is not only being white, because right now there is many black, Asians, Brazilians, people from different countries now who are Danish. When we use the term Danish, we don't only mean white Danish, we mean also all those people who have gotten citizenship as Danish. And all those people, when you are married to them, you have to be very careful that there is an amount of money, which is a lot of money. Also, 100,000 Danish krona is not an easy. It's not that easy. It's also a lot of money. It's almost
now 100,000. It used to be 50,000.
It's now 100,000 Danish krona. You know,
Okay.
it's not an easy. It's not easy money. It's almost $13,000 or something like that. You know, so it's not easy. And when you have to put all this money together and pay it, it's not an easy task. So you have to be careful when you say, well, you are going to go in that way. And most of the time, there's a higher rate of divorce in those marriage, because when you come here, there is some requirements which are there. There may be also a cultural difference between you guys, you know, because you come from a country where it's not Dane, and when you come to Denmark, there is other requirements they need you to do, and you may not be able to fulfill those requirements, and that can be also a cause of, like, there is a lot of divorce. Then you have to look at that when you do these family reunifications with your Danish partner, or
We
your
are, we are
Asians or
remaining with
Africans.
10 minutes. Thank you so much. We are remaining with 10 minutes. I would add Sister Esperance, who has not shown up now, and see she is in. If you have,
I'm here, my father.
yeah, so would you mind to open your camera and ask a question? And if you just want to ask a question behind the camera, it's also fine. Maybe you have a question you want to ask, either in Swahili or in English, it's fine. Unaweza ukauliza tu na Joyce naye aulize maswali yake, alafu can be able to finish. We still have 10 minutes back before we end up. We start with Esperance. Mama Esperance, karibu.
Asante papa, na nashukuru jifunzo na maelekezo mazuri. Yeah, kwa kweli nimefuata, lakini nilichelewa kidogo. Nilifika kwenye papa ilo alikuwa anaanza kufundisha juu ya reunification, wakati hata reunifie mtu ifo kwe na mabie zake hapa Denmark, ama pesa ama kazi yenye iko valable, yenye inaweza kuruhusu guvernema iruhusu mtu kwa kureunifia hapa. Nimefuata kila kitu kabisa, lakini swali yangu iko ni kwamba ni pesa ya monte yapata gani mtu anapasha kuwa nayo, na wakati wanaangalia ekonomi ya mtu wanaangalia zile pesa za uko nazo deja mkonti, ama wanaangalia pesa zenye unapataka kila mwezi?
Kama unataka kuitisha mtu Denmark,
kama unataka kuitisha mtu wanaangalia pesa za unapataka kila mwezi, ama wanaangalia pesa zenye ulishakaweka mkonti?
Yeah. Na mimi niongezee tu kwa hiyo swali aijibie pamoja. Kuna hii sijui kama ni miti au ni ukweli ambayo wengi wetu tunaambiwa sisi ambao ni wageni kwamba ukiacha pesa nyingi tu, sijui kama hii swali ni nzuri kuliuliza hapa, lakini sasa ushasikia vile niko nauliza, so wewe tujibie tu na utujibie na lugha tunaelewa.
Let's take the first question. How much? Then the other question, maybe I'll try to explain it a little bit in Swahili.
So the question was how much somebody should have in an account if you are to invite somebody from outside as a part of family reunification. That was the question from our sister.
Yeah, then the question is a little bit much about the extended family, because there is this I was saying about the requirement of the family with the husband, the kid, and everything. Then you have to invite someone who is maybe your uncle, your brother, and someone, or your parents. How much you have to have in your account, because the only thing is not your account. The first thing is your job, the kind of job you are doing, and how much you are getting on a monthly basis. You know, because
the income.
That's the income you are getting.
Income.
The income you are getting determines how you are using it. Because the issue is like that. They will ask your bank your bank statement, and in your bank statement there is how you are using your money, and the other thing is how much you have also in your bank account, because something may happen to that person. Let's say the person needs to go back tomorrow, or the visa expired and they want to go back tomorrow. Then you will come and say, we don't have money to pay for our medication. Because when you come to Denmark as a visitor, it means healthcare. You are going to pay to take it yourself. No one is going to pay for you, because the people are paid here. The people are living here in Denmark, and if you visit, someone comes, you have to pay for that person. And sometimes you can go to the hospital and they will give you a bill of 30,000 Danish kroner. And if you don't have that in your account, whom do you think is going to pay for that bill? So they look at the money you have in your account, the kind of job you are doing, and the kind of things you have. You may have a house, you may have a nice car, you may have maybe what they call, I don't know how to call it in English, but they call it in Danish, sommerhus. Like you have a place and you have a house, your proper house, and you have the house which you go sometime, you go and relax.
Vacation house.
Yeah, maybe a vacation house where you go there. They are looking at the property which you have. When you have all these properties, because when you have a house in Denmark, one day I will talk also about why the benefit of having a house in Denmark. Because when you have a house in Denmark, it gives you like you have also something you can rely on. Because when you have a house and you have paid some money off, you can go to the bank and say, I need a loan, and they will give you a loan because they know that you have a house and the money is there. You know, so that is also an income which you have, because you are showing that I have something to show. So the requirement is like You have something to show, and that is the incomes which you can have. When I go back to the question, which I will take in, maybe I'll a little bit, sorry to those who are speaking English or who can only hear English, but I'll change it a little bit in Swahili. Ile ambayo naendelea kusema ya kwamba ukikuwa kama vile mgeni una pesa nyingi katika account yako, nayo ni hali nzuri, hawatakusaidia. Ni mawazo kama hauna kazi. If you don't have a job, then they will say we cannot help you. But if you have a job, it means that they will only help you because there is a job there and your job is there. There's no problem. They will help you even if something happens. So it's not a problem to have the money into your bank account. It's not a problem to have all your money into your bank account, as long as you don't say one day when your money finished, you will go back to the you go back to the government and say, I need some support from you. And Denmark is it's a very organized society, that the society which we are living in today, because when you are working, there is these associations. You are paying some money off, and when you are paying some money off sometime, and if you lose your job, you have 2 years where you can be home looking for a job, and you'll be getting some money. And before you leave, these 2 years finished, then you go and start to get support from the government. It's a long term, Maybe if you get sick, it means there is also support for those who are sick. Because you are sick, there is this kind of support. We're going to support you. And one day when I'll come and talk about the social support in Denmark, I'll show how the Danish society helps people when you have a problem at your job place, and when you get sick. Maybe you can get sick for a long time. The society will take over and try to help you because you have been working, you have been contributing, you have been paying your tax. And then I will talk how the associations of association where you are paying maybe 500 Danish kroner every month, which can help you also to take care of some of your bills. Maybe it's not a lot of money because you are not going to get vacational money, you're not going to get anything, but there is a support coming which you can use to support you with in your life, or support you with different things, or when your income does not go well. And when we go and look at this family reunification of other extended members, then our advice is always get a friend who is maybe, he may not be a lawyer, but he understands the immigration law, he understands the Danish Immigration Act. Let him go through your papers. And if you have knowledge, you understand it yourself, go through it before you begin to engage yourself or you begin to apply. Go through all your documents, and please work on it. We have in our company right now, we are only taking like 850. We don't ask valued added tax. We don't ask that. We only ask 150. Then we go through all your documents, all your papers. We look at it, and we come with our understanding of the rules and law. We say, in this case, you cannot get any family reunification. Then you have to wait. You have to do this and do this. We come with recommendations which can help you to to fulfill all the requirements, and then apply for family reunification for members of your family. And it's not every member of your family which can come to Denmark. You have to have some connection. You have to have some proofs. And it's because of those proofs which you have, which you can show that he is a member of your family, then the Danish society or the immigration office can say, let's bring this person to Denmark. So when we are talking about family reunification, we are talking about the members of your family, and only those members which can come to Denmark. I'm not saying that you cannot apply otherwise. You can apply, but there is there's almost 95, I would say 95% of you getting a rejection because he's not a member of your family. And for those who are getting, I was saying before, those who are getting married to you get your friend on Facebook, you people begin to chat, you begin to laugh, cook together on Facebook, call each other every time. I always say, get time to know the person. Put some money together, go and visit the person. And when you have been with the person, you have talked, meet with them, remember always to take some pictures with you, because those that prove that you have been together come to Denmark. Maybe get married. When you get married, then start to look people, professionals, to look at your case. It's better to pay something than to pay 10,000. It's better to pay, like, let's say 2,000 Danish krona, 3,000 Danish krona, than to pay 10,000 for family reunification and lose it if you are not a refugee. Or even though you are a refugee, there's some maybe your status says, they will look at it and say you can go and live with your family in, let's say, in Kenya. And when they say you can go and live with your family in Kenya, it means you have to pay this 10,000. So instead of paying 10,000 and this money will go, then they will say we can't give you that, or they will not reject. If they reject your application, you are lucky, because they will send your money back. If they don't reject your application, then you are unlucky, because the money is gone, and they say you cannot come to Denmark. And then who is losing? You are the one losing, because you could have talked to a professional or talk to a lawyer, and the person could help you, maybe come with some requirements or some advice which could help you to do something. So the family reunification issues, like I said before, there is conditions, and this condition, one of them is you have to have Danish at level 3. Or those who have finished what we call here in Denmark 9 class, they have, when you finish 9 class, it means you have Danish at level 3. It may be if you do Danish D. Some people, they go to what we call here in Denmark VUC. People, they go there. It's an education for people who are old. Those people are more than people who attend those education. There are those who are more than 8 years, like from 8 years above, and then they attend those. If you do Danish D, it means it is a Danish at level 3. There is also those who are doing Danish, what we call FVU. FVU at Trin, normally we call it Trin 4, Trin 4. When you do it at Trin 4, it means you have also Danish at level 3. All these things I mentioned here, they are Danish at level 3, which you can use to apply for family reunification. And one of the conditions which they need most you to fulfill is for you to have Danish at that level, at level 3. When you have Danish at level 3, you are relaxed. And after that, you can have the job. The person who's living in Denmark has to have a job for almost 5 good years. Like you are working almost 5 good years, and then you can apply to bring your wife. Your wife, which is in another country, have to have English at level, they call it level B1. I don't know how it may be English at a higher level. Or he has to be also, in the country where the person comes from, worked almost 3 years, like in a work which he can prove that he was working, or he was doing his own business for almost 3 years. And he has to be able, like he has gone to school for almost 1 year. Like if he has a year school, he went to school he or she went to school for 1 year, then they can accept the person to maybe to come in Denmark. And there is the requirement which we have to fulfill for the immigration office to accept your husband or your wife to come into Denmark and live with you. There's things which you have to do for us to fulfill some requirements of so that we can get family reunifications.
There are things which you must fulfill for you to get family reunification. There was a part B of that question, which I don't know how you'll answer it, but anyway, maybe you'll answer that off camera. You say any question you have the lawyers will conclude?
No, I don't have a question.
Esperance, if you still have a question, you are welcome to ask.
Naulize nini vavo katana na vile nilichikia nafikiri lenjo ulize tu naye.
Rita, una swali? I can see Rita.
Ndio naingia, nilikuwa sijua kama mko hapo leo, ndio naingia sasa, simu yake sikupata hata.
Unaingia huku pata hata
maybe the only thing I want to add lastly is like sometimes when people they get married, there is like there is violence that we call the domestic violence in the house. Some people they experience that you can be there is domestic violence which can be physically, like you are abused physically. There is also domestic violence where you can be abused psychologically. You know, a person is abusing you psychologically, which the abuse, the violence which happens psychologically, you cannot be able to prove it, which is one of the problem. But the one who is physically, you can be able to prove it. And as a lawyer, our advice is like you have to have proofs. And today, I think today is very easy to get proof. One day I will talk about how you can get proofs for like domestic violence. You can get proof. And when those who are married to maybe to people who have been doing family reunification, and when you get to Denmark, they start to abuse you, like using you as a sex object. They start like, you know, like they're not valuing you. They're not valuing, like there's no value given to you. You feel like one day I was talking with someone who told me like, this guy doesn't value me, and he doesn't value me. He sees me like an object. No, he sees me like an object, you know. And you can prove that. You can prove it. It's easy to prove it. One day I will talk about how you can prove this thing, and then
are recordings allowed in the court of law? For example,
of course, recording. If you want to use that,
somebody is abusing me, I can use my phone to record them.
If you want to use
me, I can.
If you want to use it as proof, you can use it. Of course, as proof. You cannot record it and send it on the internet, because then that is a criminal act. You can record it and keep it yourself to use it as a proof. Because if there is violence in the house, you can divorce and remain in Denmark based on that.
How is it a criminal act if it's me who is being violated and it's me posting myself on social media? How is that? And why do I see so many people doing that without
when there is violation, there is also two people involved, because you cannot. It's not only yourself, because when you are posting this video, you are going to say the name of the person. Oh, this kind of person is violating me, or something like this, which means the name of that person, the reputation of that person is at stake, also, you know. But if it can only be you who are putting yourself on Facebook, like you don't talk about, you are not involving someone, then it's not a problem. But if you involve someone, then it becomes the reputation of that person becomes alternate. What I was trying to say about violence, it was like you can remain in Denmark also based on the fact that you are violated, or your rights are not, or your husband was like beating you, you know, like violating you domestically. It's domestic violence, which you have experienced and you have proof. You can prove it, and then you can remain in Denmark and stay without any problem, even if you have divorced with the person. But if there are no proof, it's only your words, your only words which you are using, and this word, I don't think it's possible for a person to accept that you can remain endemic based on that. So it's obvious that you have to look exactly that that you have to prove it, and it's very good, because when you prove it, when you prove that this man is very violent, then the government will give that man 10 years. Like in 10 years, the person cannot go out and marry outside Denmark, because then he cannot go out and take someone again from outside Denmark and bring the person into Denmark, because they're afraid that he's going to do the same thing. Then he has to get a ban of like 10 years of not going to marry into other countries. And the other thing which we have to be careful when we are doing family reunification, especially when we are doing it when we are married, we have to be careful that the only thing which they look, is this marriage, is it a really thing, or it's only a marriage which they are doing to get a resident permit in Denmark? Because when they get a resident permit in Denmark, then they cannot do anything. They will run, they will divorce. The only object is for them to get a resident permit in Denmark. I was one day I was working. I'm working on this case where people get married and then they don't stay together. There is nothing. They're like they don't stay together. Everyone stays. It's on apartment, but they have the same address. The risk is when the police or the immigration office find out, they will always come and say, please. They will write to the immigration office. If it's the police, they will write to the immigration office and say, we are suspecting that this person is not living with his or her husband, his wife or her husband. When they are suspecting that, then they will call you to the meeting so that you can prove that you are living together. Or a neighbor, a neighbor living somewhere can say, I'm suspecting this place there is no a husband or a wife, and this neighbor can take something, can write and send to the immigration. And it's very you have to be very careful again when someone is married on family reunification basis in Denmark, and the person, you take the person and put the person into your house so that the person can use the rules of Denmark while staying at your place. That us can be like because every citizen in Denmark has a right to act if there is something illegal going on. And if you don't act, then you may be it may be seen as an act of crime because you didn't act and you didn't report the incident to the government or to the officials of the Danish Danish officials. So I think that is all which I had for.
Yeah, we are running over. Time is running. We are having 2 minutes. Dada Rita, tulikuwa tunazungumzia mambo ya kuleta mtu. Kama wewe unaishi ndani ya nchi ya Denmark na ungetaka kumleta mtu katika nchi hii, sheria inasemaje kwa wageni, kwa wananchi? Mtu ambaye anataka kuja hapa kama mwanafunzi, unataka kuja hapa kama mtu wa mfanyakazi, nini ambao sheria inasema, lakini pia kuhusu maswali ya fedha nyingine ya kuoa, kama umeoana na mtu ambaye ni mgeni na wewe ni mgeni, au umeoana na mgeni na wewe ni raia wa nchi hii. Na kuwa raia, tumeambiwa kwamba si lazima uwe kwamba uko na ngozi mweupe, unaweza kuwa uko mgeni lakini uko raia kwa sababu umepata nationality hapa. So hayo ndio maswala ambayo tulikuwa tumezungumzia. Kipindi ya kwanza ilikuwa kwa Kiingereza na hii kipindi kwa Kiswahili, kipindi ya pili kwa Kiingereza. But we can give you 1 minute, tunaweza kupatia dakika moja kama una kitu ambao ungetaka kuulizia kwa dakika sekunde 30 ambazo tumebakia nazo ili tumalizie, alafu tuendelee Jumamosi ijayo. Karibu dada Rita, kama una swali, na Diose na Diose, wewe ulimaliza wakati wako. Dada Rita, are you there, Rita? He seems not to be there. So thank you so much. Maybe we just ask our lawyer to give us his final remarks even as we conclude this. Thank you so much. And he would also be a good thing to tell us what will be the topic for the next session on Saturday. And this is the problem with us as African, because tuko na hii chance not tuko na hii chance ya kupewa legal advice bure. Sasa alikuwa anatuambia what we could have paid for, we are getting it for free here, but people are still not willing to come and listen. But since it's online, people can still come and listen to it even afterwards. So yeah, what will be the next Saturday at the same time, 10?
Yeah.
The topic, maybe you need to announce it in advance so that people
Yeah,
are aware.
I was like saying that the family reunifications rules in Denmark are somehow complicated, and we cannot explain everything in two,
In one session.
like in one hour time and one section, because there's a lot of things involved in it. But if you need to, you are looking at doing family reunification, you have an opportunity to read at the internet. The immigration they've put something which they call New in Denmark. When you go there at New in Denmark, you can read a lot of things. And if you don't understand, you need help, get a friend. A friend may help you, because when you call us, it means business. Then you are coming to pay. But if you call a friend, it will be easy for a friend to do it for free. But if you call me, it means you have come for work. Then I will be able to charge you for the time. But if you can watch some of our videos where we're talking about refugees, and we are talking about today family reunification, maybe you can get some of the aspect there. And next week, then when you have done family reunification, then you need integration in Denmark. So I think maybe next week we may talk about integration in Denmark. So in terms of integration in Denmark, I may suggest that we call someone who did social work, those who went to school and did social work. They call it social rådgiver. They are able to talk more about the international integration in Denmark. What is the requirement, and what really do we call integration? And then maybe the person can explain us more about integration. Then I'm thinking maybe when he has explained that, then we can talk about maybe about how to be a Danish citizen in Denmark. What is the requirement of being a Danish citizen, and what does crime of beating your kid involved? What can crime do for your life in Denmark? Because a small, if you do crime and you are convicted in Denmark, it disturbed all your being, your staying. It disturbed your work things. Maybe we can talk about all that next week about integration in Denmark. And I would suggest we get a person who have done social worker, which they call social rådgiver. They are very competent in like providing what do we call integration, or people who did political science, those who did state kunskap. They're also able to provide what they call integration. And then maybe I will take over after the person and talk a little bit about Danish citizenship, how to get it and how you can lose it, because you can get it and you can still lose it.
Yeah, I think if we know even some Danish people who would be willing also to talk on this Saturday as we're talking about integration, maybe it could be also a good idea to have a Danish on board, because when we talk about integration, it's both sides, for those of us who are coming from outside, but also for the local citizens, because I have an impression that the local citizens, they have some kind of stereotype and some myths and stories about foreigners, especially those coming from the south. And that's where again the issue of crime comes in. Maybe we'll ask those questions because there are people who are really criminals in terms of the family matters like getting kids and this stuff. But there are also these stereotypes of people who think that people from some places behave in a certain way, and therefore everybody looking somehow, they should be treated differently. So these are some of the issues maybe we discuss about next Saturday. So I know you know that Avero, she's not around, but we can still talk to her if she'll be there. I hope she'll be there. And the other sister whom you are working with, what's her name again?
Celine.
Celine. Could also invite Celine probably. And if we get one Danish, a really Danish person.
When you say Danish, you mean white Danish.
White Danish, yeah.
Yeah, but when we get a white Danish, not only a white Danish, but a white Danish educated.
A white educated Danish, exactly.
Yeah, a white educated Danish.
And even if they're not educated, even if they're not educated, we just want to have a common citizen, a common Danish citizen, their view about the whole thing. Maybe they are not knowledgeable in matters of law, because if a lawyer comes here, they will tell us law, or they will tell us the reality. But
that's why I said we get a social worker, not a social worker with a Danish background. It's fine. It has to be a social worker, but because if you get only a Danish, and that is the mistake some foreigners, some as foreigners.
I'm not saying only. I'm saying we want to balance the debate. Like we make it a debate. We listen from foreigners. We listen from the Danish, and then we listen to experts. What do experts say? You see, if you understand what I mean.
Yes. Yes, I do.
I just want to have just a foreigner, Congolese who knows nothing about law and their experience in Denmark, and a Danish who knows nothing about law, their experience or their view about foreigners, because it takes all these two sides to be able to integrate. And then we hear from you lawyers and for those professionals in the integration ministry to tell us the reality of what is expected from both sides, from the host and the guest, so to speak. So that is the approach I'm looking at it, but we'll see if by that time we'll have visitors who would be there. So you professional will talk about the professional part of it, the law and all this stuff. And as common human beings, will tell you about the reality of the normal day-to-day, because there is one, the law says, and there is the day-to-day living.
Of course.
Two different things.
Course.
Yeah. So that's
the experience which we are experiencing in the society.
Exactly.
Us, it's no problem. I understand.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll work on that, and on a Saturday we will do that. So, which means whether we get those people, we will still need to have you, because we will need to hear the legal part of everything. It's very important, because they say in law that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Nobody will say I'm innocent because I didn't know. You have to know, and that's the chance that this program is giving us to get to know what we didn't know. You say anything that you want to add as we leave? Let the lawyer give us the final remarks.
No, I don't have.
You don't have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Anything final remarks?
No, it's fine. I think we're going to meet again on a Saturday, and thank you for being with us. And those who are watching online, maybe you have some questions. You see the number there. Numbers are there, and you can just ask. And those who will be watching on Facebook, we're going to follow you on Facebook. If you have questions, then we may answer those questions. We may summarize next week when we are talking about other issues. And we are welcoming you to follow this program, because you can only lose your time to sit and watch on YouTube, but you can still learn a lot of things when getting some ideas from this program, and it can help you, in the society where you are a foreigner, or you can also be, a Danish. You have lived here for many years, or maybe you are born here, and you can learn something from this program, us to build the society which we are trying to build. The Flutening Forum, which is maybe the organizer of all this program, and then talk about the Arising Africa Rising TV, which we are also trying to inform about, what is happening in the world, in Denmark, that we can be able to understand the society where we are living in. Thank you very much for watching us, and we'll see you again on Saturday.
Asanteni sana and kwaheri. Thank you so much for all of us, for the panelists who have been here. Thank you for those who are watching us. Mama Esperanza, I hear your voice. Anything you want to say?
Much. I just say thank you for today.
God bless you. We'll meet on Saturday at 10 o'clock, and we will have all our panelists. We'll be sending you the posters before, that you know what to expect. God bless you. Have a nice weekend, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.